character pick? We'll see. Now, Visor straight away. Now, we were just about... And okay, so before we can even go into anything else, this is a dual tournament post-patch where we've seen a BJ immediately twice, in fact, and Visor selected also. So I feel like this is going to be a little bit foreshadowing. There's likely to be a little bit more creativity today.
But this is exactly what I was hoping to see from Champion Select, right? Champion Select was, especially back in the QWC days, Champion Select was such a big part of competitive play because it was very unpredictable back then. A lot of players kind of preferred their own unique lineups to certain maps or whatever. Maybe they just preferred playing specific champions, right? But especially at the moment, it's definitely seemed to, over the last sort of couple of weeks or so, it definitely evolved into you need a Sorlag, you need, you know, a combination of Nyx, Anarchy, we saw a lot of Slash, and maybe a little bit of Ranger here and there to be a bit spicy. But there was a lot of core champions that almost, I don't want to say made the Champion Select screen redundant as such, but definitely you'd see it and you kind of knew what was coming, right? Whereas this is the first time we've seen completely, you know, I suppose throwing all the tools out of what we expect to see them. But that's going to be our first lineup of the day. Remember, this is going to be a best of 5 rounds, first to 2 maps, as always, but we might have plenty left to go.
Well, this is winners
based on
bracket.
the lineup we've seen.
It's winners bracket action as well. So we're back into the classic period where, you know, the safety net is there. So if one of these two guys loses the series, they're not going to be out of the tournament. They're just going to be in that losers bracket. But I feel, you know, when we're in sort of grand finals territory, that double elimination becomes very, very prominent. But today, seeing as we're qualifying 1 player through winners and 1 player through losers, getting winners nice and early, being able to sort of let you relax a little bit is going to be really useful. But, you know, many players, Zoot included, has been posting online. Now, Kicks, this is a player that you really want to be looking out for.
And we'll find out exactly why that is over the next couple of minutes or so. But already, Kicks can be starting off with that Visor and Cemetery going in with Nyx. Now, a huge thing about this matchup specifically from champion to champion is the piercing sight from Visor can see a Nyx when she's in that Ghost Walk. When she's currently invisible, he can kind of track her through for a few seconds. So that can be a bit of a counterplay opportunity, right? That you're looking to play around that fact and try almost like bait out the piercing sight before so you can then get away safely.
It's going to be very useful for Kicks in particular because he started with the Visor, you know, in anticipation of Nyx going first. Such a popular champion, people select. He's already popped it. But there you go. Just naturally, Cemetery is not going to be aware that Kicks had popped that. So he's going to run right around the corner, and it's going to allow Kicks to get that rail uncontested. And a 90 charged rail on Nyx in particular is a lot of damage that she definitely doesn't want to take.
Especially earlier on now as well, when she is... I mean, she's going to be stacked up, but not quite overstacked, considering, right, we know that Kicks has control over some of it at the moment. But still, starting things off immediately. Not too bad of a start.
There's that Mega. I think in this particular matchup, Visor is deceivingly tanky in certain cases.
But that's a big part of him though, right? That base 125 for someone of his size and deceiving mobility as well, we have to remember, you know, when he's moving in that single direction, he does actually he actually does have a cap to how fast he can move, but it takes him a while to hit that. And he can go incredibly fast if he can really start to build up some of those shots.
He's going to have to be really careful how he approaches this, going in towards the Mega. Actually ate a bunch of LG. That could have been disastrous if he got caught in that jump pad, but I think Cemetery didn't really want to take that risk.
He took a lot of damage there, but he had a good read on where Cemetery was going to try and run away to. Always managed to beat him to the punch, I suppose, but wasn't quite able to do it on time. Still, though, getting himself an LG, that's going to be huge. You have to remember, you know, getting less of that starting ammo when you pick up certain weapons is going to mean that players are going to have to change around how they route around the map sometimes, you know? Maybe trying to pick up some more of those ammo boxes specifically.
But it's just little things like that, right? This is an immediate night and day difference with the piercing sight being client side when he activates the ability. Every time he's popped that from a distance, you know, Cemetery has no idea that it's been used, which means he is more likely to go around corners and just eat a rail, eat a prediction rocket. He's taken a lot of damage already that, I mean, if this was before the patch when he was able to hear it, he probably wouldn't have taken any of them because he knew it would have been a risk.
Still, though, taking a lot of damage here. Doesn't have any armor, but still a lot of health. That's the heavy armor for sure. He's actually chasing in. You can see the Ghost Walker's been popped, and his piercing sight isn't up for a while, so gonna have to still read the old-fashioned way. But he has found him. Cemetery's in a bit of a bad position here. Doesn't have any health at all. And that is going to be a nice prediction rocket from Kicks, taking that first blood of the game, and also securing the mega health in the process, keeping himself as tanky as possible.
Now changing things into Blazkowicz, he's lost a lot of mobility here, going from Nyx straight into BJ, who really BJ I know he's got that natural health regen, which will help him outside of combat if he eats the damage from the piercing sight, but really, he's kind of stuck to that traditional movement, right? There are certain routes he's just going to be unable to take, which will kind of open up a little bit of creative options for Kix, and he's trying to sort of catch him off guard.
Something that I'm thinking about Blaskovic, right, though, is one of those changes, making the small armor and the small health give a flat 25 back, you know, not sort of rounding you up to the next block, as it were. Surely that goes hand in hand with Blaskovic's passive, right, where he will regenerate to the next block if he's out of combat. Obviously, yeah, this is definitely a newer
Here we go.
We've only had so long to test certain things, but surely that means his health regen is a lot more reliable now. But actually, Kix taking a lot of damage in that exchange there. Looking somewhat even for now, but the dual wield just popped. Is Cemetery going to chase this? No, he's just going to use the dual wield. I think just trying to zone away Kix, going to secure that heavy armor. Get himself nice and tanked up.
Yeah, the dual wield was definitely just to sort of keep Kix away from that heavy, and just caught off guard. He's in big trouble now with only 36 HP left, but a disgusting mid-air. Very impressive stuff there from Kix, and he's rewarded with that mega too.
That was such an insane prediction from Kix, knowing that, okay, well, if Cemetery uses this jump pad now, that's it. That's a lot of damage, and it was incredibly 100 direct damage. Perfect rocket coming out from Kix and taking a very slow but steady round, I think. No, still in round one, a few seconds away from going into overtime, just over 30 seconds now. Cemetery with a lot of work to do just to try and even out, because even if he manages to take out Kix's visor, he's going to have the option to go to maybe, you know, BJ to just try and get that raw damage to trade out, or maybe Anarchy just to try and run away, but time is definitely not on Cemetery's side anymore.
That's the problem he's having. The clock really is his worst enemy here. He has 15 seconds to get 2 champions. I mean, at this stage, it's pretty much not possible. This is likely to be a free round one as long as sort of Kix keeps him on the back foot. And at this stage, I'm pretty ready to say that's going to be a round one for free. 5 seconds left for 2 champions. No way, mate. Not possible at all. Very good round from Kix indeed.
Solid pace being established from Kix, though. It seemed like there was definitely the speed he wanted to play that round, right? You know, the way he was not really rushing into fights as much. He was using that piercing sight just to really just stay one step ahead, I suppose, of Cemetery's movement. Almost seemed that every time that, you know, almost like Kix had a permanent piercing sight, right? That he was always just there with a rocket ready to stop Cemetery from running around freely.
But using that piercing sight at the very start of the round, it's amazing data for Kix, so letting him really see, okay, what kind of start is Cemetery actually going to go for? What weapon has he gone for first? You know, if he sees Cemetery go for the only weapon he can possibly start with, it's going to be...
This is a bad situation to be in. Only had the rocket yet. Decides to just get out of that fight immediately. Knows that Cemetery's Ghost Walk was down. But being stuck in that sort of situation versus a small target like Nyx, you need more than a rocket to get reliable damage. But he's going to chase this down, and Cemetery gets kept in the air, and Kix taking another solid first frag of the round, and Cemetery forces a Blaskovic already.
Oh, and he's fresh off the spawn. He knows exactly where he is.
Wow.
Another mid-air. Well, not mid-air, direct almost. Definitely the wrong word for that one. But that was really impressive.
Close enough.
The piercing sight gave him the knowledge. He understood exactly where he spawned. He knows he can go in for the fight because he's just respawned right there.
I mean, that was 95 damage. And Cemetery gets the gauntlet out, I think, out of desperation. Didn't really have anything else to go. And that is Kix putting that piercing sight to perfect use. Using it right at the start to realize immediately where his opponent's going to be. Obviously, in that situation, he can see, right, well, he's there. So what weapons is he going to have? Where can I fight? What range can I fight from? Using it to run away safely. Using it to chase down. Using it as your opponent's next champion spawns to catch... normally, we say, you know, catching your opponent on an early spawn is great, because if you've got loads of weapons and you've just caught them as they, you know, obviously respawn, they might only have one weapon or maybe just a starter machine gun, which is best case scenario. Visor can pop piercing sight as you spawn and run for you straight away, almost guaranteeing that advantageous fight immediately.
Well, if he knows he's guaranteed to have a better start than you, or he's more equipped for the fight,
he'll take it.
He'll take it, and he'll know he is able to take it
and
too.
And also, we have to remember that as of, you know, the new balance patch a couple of days ago, Cemetery's not going to be hearing him do that. Cemetery has no idea when he's popping the piercing sight.
I just feel like this kind of knowledge will just let you have next level control. And he actually very brave stuff, going straight into those rockets. In one rail, and he would have been in big trouble there.
Yeah, maybe. Very close, but Cemetery, I don't think he realized just how much damage he did there, but maybe he just wanted to take some time to actually get control of the Mega Health, which we haven't seen him get for a little while now. Looks like Kix has kind of just been in control the whole time, but...
Well, just look at the timers. It's more likely that around the same time Megas are going to be spawning.
Do you think he's just waiting out the piercing sight? Looks like he's kind of trying to control this lightning gun, but it's a long time to sit here waiting. Maybe he's just trying to wait for his ability to come back.
Well, he can be a little bit creative here if he wants to. In a couple of seconds, when he gets that piercing sight again, it's going to be really useful for him, no doubt. Now he's going to know that sort of going towards the heavy is going to be a little bit more uncontested, and even right now he knows that Cemetery is going to sort of concede that and let him take it for now.
Do you think Kix was using that to almost guarantee himself getting the heavy armor?
But
just
it's
to make sure that Cemetery wasn't chasing it, right? So he could just go grab it, and then now that's it again.
Well, I mean, the nature of an ability like this is just endless utility. It functions in so many different ways.
I mean, he already has it again, right? He's going towards those hourglasses. That's a lot of potential. And Cemetery, he literally has nowhere he can go to hide. So this Kicks is managing his piercing sight the way he currently is. I expect Cemetery will hang around for a little while, knowing he's got that Ghost Walk to get away, but Cemetery's going to have to make that read. Does he have the piercing sight? Can he chase me down if I run? But Cemetery's chasing this frag, but walks straight into a rocket.
He's still going to hit him with a couple more of those rails before he's actually able to tickle him. Visor with that 99 HP and 49 armor. That is more than one rail's health right there. He's having a really hard time cracking into this Visor. I mean, there's no getting around it, but it's all at the same time that Kicks, on top of just having what is clearly very, very solid just map control fundamentals anyway, you've now got this wall hack. I know we've talked about it a lot, but it is such a prominent tool, especially post-patch. It just lets you just establish an element of control unlike anyone else. Now, there's not even any prediction required. You know exactly where they are.
But that's been working out for him, right? It has been, you said it yourself, right? A tough nail to crack. It's doing so much work for Kicks at the moment. It all comes down to just patience, a lot of patience and perfect management of that ability. Cemetery, you can see him down there. He is going to have dual wield, so Kicks is going to have to watch out. He's dual wielding the rails, but unfortunately misses two of them, but hits one at least.
Yeah, BJ actually does, as I mentioned, higher rate of fire on those single shot weapons while he's in dual wield. Unfortunately, didn't really get to see it used much, but it could have worked out. Just not this time, unfortunately.
It's going to be a while before he has that up again, and there's the piercing sight. So again, Kicks knowing exactly where Cemetery is, looking around for him.
Oh my, do we even need to say any more about the strength of that right there? Just there's no way Cemetery was looking for that rocket. You walked right into it. It just means that every turn you take, as long as you know you're kind of within that leeway, every turn you take becomes a massive risk.
But Kicks still knows where he is, All it takes is that one use. It's not a matter of, hang on, the dual wield is back up again as well. But he's being sent away, but that's a lot of damage going in, and that will be a frag. That's it, Cemetery was actually able to get the better of him in that 1v1 there, taking it back into the Blaskovich 1v1. But it's not just the, where you see them with the piercing sight. It's when it runs out and you can see where they are running, you can make a very safe prediction on where they're going to eventually move to from there.
Well, you know where they roughly are, right? So if you've already got those good fundamentals anyway, sometimes it can be quite obvious. This is the first time we've seen Kicks knocked off the Visor too, so it'll be interesting to see how he sort of recovers.
Which is a strange realization considering how far into the
here we go.
The dual wield Cemetery actually didn't get the better of that trade at all, and he's still going in. There we go. Kicks is going to take that 1v1 easily there, taking that dual wield lightning gun. They're working out in that situation. Still though, Cemetery put onto this Ranger, which we unfortunately haven't really had the chance to see too much of at the moment, but Kicks facing it with this Blaskovich is a little bit new, but he has got that champion lead, and we're just over 5 seconds away from going into overtime. Kicks is taking the fight. He could just lay that.
Oh, that hurt so much. That did so much damage. Outright 3-0. Very impressive map. I think Kicks will be happy with that one. I mean, many players have been saying that Kicks is one of the absolute players to watch in this tournament. This is winner's side, so he's clearly won his way up here already. One map up in convincing fashion isn't really surprising to see. I think it was just a really strong display. It was particularly that Visor, putting it to perfect use. And Blood Covenant has always been such a good map for Visor as well anyway, as a champion, even, since day one.
Back when we used to see significantly more of Visor, it was usually on Blood Covenant. But whether or not he'll stick with it, I kind of hope he does, because it seems like something that he's very comfortable on. But even that, I'm just happy to see already, a day or so after the patch, we're already seeing players really deviating away from that solid, established, meta, right, of the Sorlag, which I have no doubt we'll still see those champions today.
We were always going to be in a situation today where it was going to be one of two things, where players will play it safe and go with what they know already works, which has been working for many, many weeks now, or many months, I guess is a more accurate term, or now the balance patch has happened and it really has kind of thrown a spanner in the works for some of these champion picks. Is this the time where players decide to experiment? It's either going to be they experiment because now there's a lot more options to be explored, or they're going to play it safe because in many ways the patch might be too new for them to risk something new instead.
Well, for the second map of the series, we're going to be going to the Corrupted Keep, which would have been Cemetery's choice here.
I mean, what happens here now?
I mean, it makes you wonder if Visor's going to be as prominent here, because Corrupted Keep is a lot smaller. It's kind of easier just to know where your opponent's going to be. I mean, it makes you wonder, like, is Visor even going to be necessary on Corrupted Keep? Unless, one big thing we saw Kix doing before is if you manage to take out your first champion or any of your champions, and hold on to Piercing Sight at the time, he'd pop Piercing Sight as soon as you respawned to catch you on an early spawn, guaranteed. It will be very easy for him to get to your early spawn point immediately.
And he's doing it again. This does not surprise me. I mean, it makes a lot of sense because he looks so strong with this champion. It's just his knowledge of, I guess, just map sense in general, right? He had a lot of control over Cemetery, even without needing the sort of wallhack available. And now, just as that final sort of champion edge, he's gone in with Sorlag anyway. A little bit more of a traditional, keeping it similar to the previous map we saw from Cemetery, though, so he's going with what he knows already. But this is now a chance to see maybe some of the changes to Sorlag. Sorlag has been selected last, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Kix is going to select her last. He could go with Visor again. But it's kind of the reasons you said, where now it's such a small map. If you can save your Piercing Sight for after the fight is finished, you can now get a really good gauge on where the opponent actually is going to be on respawn. And if you've got the Rocket and the LG, and they're fresh off the spawn, look at the champions, right? It's BJ, Ranger, and Nyx. It's not the tankiest selection of champions. So with that in mind, if he's got a full stack, he can totally rush those champions.
It's basically, it's two medium sort of health pool champions and then Nyx on it for good measure, but even then, on the side of Kix, you've got a Visor who's deceivingly healthy, and then Sorlag, who is still one of the most tanky champions in the game. Even with, Scalebearer getting a bit more armor, Clutch getting a little bit more health, Sorlag is still sitting there with a lot of base numbers. And putting that on the lineup where we've already seen that it was hard enough for Kix to get knocked off his Visor, let alone having a Sorlag waiting in the wings, but already catching a fight with that starter shotgun and getting a lot of damage on the table immediately.
That's actually very unfortunate for Cemetery, because Cemetery was able to sort of challenge that mega health, but the issue he had was that the rockets just didn't do the damage required. He got the rockets on the location, but they just didn't connect. They were too far away. Maybe if he had a bit more damage, he could have potentially won that exchange, but
still, though, not too bad of a start at all, but interesting choice to go for starting shotgun, which is something you don't tend to see too often.
Well, on this map, if you have Piercing Sight available, and we might get into that later, actually, the fight has already taken place. That's unfortunate. He's lost him super quick.
Still, though, heavy armor going to be up any second now. Oh, that's a lot of damage coming through. Oh, I must say, though, a much better start for Cemetery this time, considering what happened on Blood Covenant. It looks like he lost that momentum straight away, almost, every time, every round. But this time, able to get the better of Kix. We saw actually Kix miss a few of those crucial rockets in that one we won beforehand, so Cemetery threw a little bit of a lifeline, but definitely making the most of it for sure.
This is that typical location where a lot of people sort of struggle to get away from. They've got their back to the wall, but he has been able to sort of escape there. Kicks with that. But this, the funny thing is, this is one of those maps we would always see BJ get selected even beforehand.
That's actually an interesting thing, though, going into what could be a new meta of the game. Should things shape up that way, is we saw a lot of specific champions on specific maps before. And is this going to see the resurgence of those champions now they've been buffed slightly? This could be the rise of Blazkowicz again on Corrupted Keep. It could be the return of Visor on Blood Covenant. I mean, these are big sweeping statements, surely, but that's the kind of thing I'd like to see.
It's definitely possible.
There's some diversity back in.
Oh, wow, the aggression coming out of Kix. Very good stuff there. Just the knowledge, right? Knowing when he can go in.
That's pretty low.
But Ranger being in, not too bad. We saw this beforehand, and Kix was able to get the best of him.
This is
for Kix to tie things up.
This is the first time we've seen it sort of almost be like a 1-1 exchange, right? Normally Kix has been the one in control so dominantly. He's going to at least be happy with the fact that, right, we're sort of back to that even playing field now, where we've both lost one champion each.
Mega health running out soon. Heavy armor going to be soon to follow up, so it's going to be quite hard to control them both, especially considering neither of these champions are, well, Blazkowicz not very mobile, but Ranger does have that dire orb for it. But you kind of have to be careful. If you use dire orb to secure a power up, you're not going to have it to obviously get out of that situation if they make that read on where you're going to be. We can see the health is going to be the one they contest for. Oh, Cemetery gets a little bit of damage, but not enough, unfortunately. But Cemetery does have a big armor advantage.
Got a nice level of sort of control in the middle. Actually tries to chase him down, but at that point, they'd already sort of gone round there, so... Oh, wow! Fantastic prediction around the corner, and... Well, that is, we're seeing BJ do what BJ does best once again. The fact he catches you around the corner with two LGs, I mean, You're on borrowed time, really. So much damage output in a short space of time.
I think when you don't see when you don't see a champion played competitively for long enough, it's easy to forget just how effective they can be and how efficient they are at certain things. And Blaskovic has always just been that. He is that slayer, right? He is that designated fragger, thanks to that huge damage output dual wield gives him. And right now, we're just being reminded exactly why he is filling that role, I suppose, currently.
What made it even better now, he fires faster with those single shots as well.
And speaking of which, rocket launcher, that's one of the... I can't remember off the top of my head if rocket launcher was one of those weapons that got affected in the patch, but still.
Well,
if
it was indeed, wrote it down just to jog your memory, friends.
Increase rate of fire for shotgun tribal, and yeah, rocket indeed. Rocket is there, so rocket launcher dual wield being a lot more dangerous than beforehand too.
And we've gone down to that 1 minute warning for an extra time right there.
And again, Kix is in the lead on that 1 minute warning. I actually can't remember the last time Cemetery actually had the advantage when it came down to this final moment. Dual wield, but the dual wield lightning gun, as always, just like it used to be, the absolute uncontested god of 1v1 fight damage.
It's, in many ways, and especially now Sorlag's had the acid adjusted, probably the highest output of damage in this game. You know, two of them together. I mean, very few characters can really tank that. Even before, with the more tanky champions in the game, they would still get melted down.
Makes you wonder if it's almost like put Blaskovic back into that spot of the most damage, right? Because obviously, like, Sorlag losing the delay between acid spit and firing, and the acid itself doing less damage over time, and Blaskovic having a buff on his dual wield. That's a lot better for him. But Kix missing another rocket, unfortunately. Not looking quite as clean as we saw before, but still very much alive and kicking. Plenty of health to work with. Oh, hang on a minute. Took a lot of damage from that rocket.
Completely. He's going to get more health now because of the plus 25.
Mega health up any second. Kix looks like he wants to fight for it. There's the piercing sight trying to contest. Ghostwalk is yet to be popped from Cemetery though, so he's going to have the edge in the 1v1 for now.
Yeah, that's a little bit...
He could chase this.
That's a little bit unfortunate right there, because I mean, you put so much resources into actually trying to fight for that Mega. Maybe if he'd have taken the Mega, we'd have forced Cemetery away from that location, or at the same time, maybe he would have got a 1v1 there. But unfortunately, he's now lost his ability and lost the Mega. As you can see now, he's
actually
kind of on the back
heavy
foot.
Armor too. Cemetery was able to basically control both of them with relative ease, thanks to that mistake. But the piercing sight going to be back up in a few seconds, and Cemetery still holding on to that Ghost Walk. So now we're going to go into that sort of game of I dare, you dare, right? Where, you know, track on the way out. Looking for this. Actually, again, we saw Kix do this last time, using piercing sight just to guarantee a pickup that he currently didn't have control over. And now, thanks to that one use of piercing sight, now has it again. Heavy armor is in his favor.
He's going to know it's completely safe as well, which is very, very important. Taking no damage as you take it, and then sort of controlling it at the same time. It's a lovely combination.
Looks like Kix playing this controlling... I suppose there's this controlling game where he's really dictating the speed of the game. Only he does this with Visor. We didn't really see it too much with Blaskovic, obviously trying to get very aggressive and making the most of those brutal 1v1s. Haven't seen a Sorlag yet, but Visor definitely seems to be this like specific game plan that he's going for. Forcing Cemetery to always be, I suppose, the mouse.
But I mean, as long as Kix is controlling the heavy armor as Visor, he's going to naturally have way more health than Nyx natively. And then if he's got the heavy armor too, then he's just become a lot healthier than she, in many ways, can ever be. So he'll just have the edge in those 1v1 situations. And then if you combine that with the fact that he knows where she's going to be, then that fight will just be in his favor completely.
Kix looking a little bit out of control of the pickups this time, though. Cemetery able to get both of them again. And here's a fight, and dies immediately. Cemetery winning that 1v1 another time. And as always, in return, Kix going in for BJ Blaskovic. He's going to have that dual wheel, but Cemetery didn't need to pop Ghost Walk at any point there, so he's going to be able to get out of this fight straight away if he needs to. And again, holding on to it. Cemetery actually showing a lot of patience, a lot of discipline.
Yeah, he's not really... Sometimes you see Nyx players a little bit itchy on the trigger finger with that one, but wasn't able to save the heavy, unfortunately, and now he's got no Ghost Walk. Yeah, does he chase it down? Does he not take this advantage?
I mean, if Kix catches him at any point in the next 30 seconds, it's going to be curtains, because not only did he lose the heavy armor, he
here we go!
Big chase, and immediately, suicide! You think Cemetery tried to almost rocket jump away to try and get away safely, but...
Either way, he shot the ground and he died for it. And he's going to trade it out.
Even if he left the ground, he wouldn't have survived. Like, he would have just been shot in the air by the LG. I think that was a bit of a caught with your pants down situations from Cemetery there.
Oh,
hang on though, Ranger getting a lot of damage out of these, but Blaskovic healthy, and the heavy armor immediately from weak to fully stacked, as is the power of that regeneration. And again, look at that.
Ask and ye shall receive.
I'm curious to see how much more improved the regeneration is now the health just gives that flat 25. Because surely that actually makes his regeneration to the next block of health, the next one 25. Surely, if you pick up the 25 health at the right time, that gives you a lot more back than it used to.
Well, on paper, you would assume it would work like that.
That's purely theory crafting. I have no idea if that's actually the case. Obviously, it's quite a new patch and haven't quite had time to look through everything.
Oh, days old at this stage, right?
Yeah, of course. I imagine we'll see some of the players trying, it's almost like testing stuff out on the fly as we see it. But we've got a long day of Quake ahead of us to see some experimentation.
There's that Mega. And just using the dual wield just in case, but I mean, well, obviously we have the luxury of seeing that Cemetery was nowhere near there, but I think Kick's just opting that the dual wield was going to be worth it just to make sure he was going to be safe taking that, because it's going to be very important to sort of keep him in this fight.
Oh, Kick's getting point blank here though. Oh, took a lot of damage there, and there we go. Cemetery with another rocket follow-up. Kick's just hasn't quite got the rockets on the mark at the moment in this round, but back on the Sorlag finally. Cemetery did pick up their heavy armor, so going to be deceivingly tanky in this 1v1, but looks like Kix has already got himself a rocket launcher, which is going to be helpful.
5 seconds on the clock. I mean, this is likely to be the round. Yeah, sort of caught him off guard temporarily. Can he get one more good rocket? Oh, not quite. Not today.
He just needed a couple more seconds to maybe make that happen, but I mean, that, as is the way of the timeout, that is going to be it. Cemetery's going to take that round, tying up 1 round apiece. And Kix now evened out again in the round, or in the map, I should say, where Kix has basically been in control the whole time, but hasn't quite looked as clean in the 1v1s with this visor so far.
Yeah, at the very least, Cemetery looks like he's a lot more comfortable dealing with this visor on this map, for sure.
It could be, it probably is a map thing though, to be fair, like I said, right?
Well, it does enforce 2 very different playstyles, doesn't it?
There's also not just, there isn't as much space in the map for Kix to enforce what he's been doing before, right? You know, slowing things down, trying to play for control, pickups, using that piercing sight, and even though he's still doing it, he doesn't have a lot of space to move around beyond that, but still already doing a lot of damage to Cemetery, chasing him down. Cemetery, there's the Ghost Walk. Didn't have piercing sight available, so had to try and predict where Cemetery was going to be.
But even now, if Kix catches him, it's unlikely to be so he's going to sort of take that as an option to safely take that heavy.
There's the mega health. We're going to see Kix. There we go. He did just pop the piercing sight. And because I like this, though, this showcases the change we're talking about. Because we're spectating Cemetery right now, we could see Kix use his piercing sight because obviously his cooldown marker went off his character portrait. We didn't hear anything. Whereas every time we've been observing Kix, obviously you hear him say it and activate it. That is the strength of it. For those few seconds, Cemetery was completely vulnerable, but I had no idea at the time that was happening. Heavy ammo coming up, though. That's very nice. It's going to be a nice tanky Nyx, and the Mega Health. They're just sort of trading pickup to pickup right now. Piercing Sight and Ghost Walk are both up. Doing one of those games.
Yeah, it's going to take us back to that sort of game we talked about earlier on, where it's if you use it before the Ghost Walk, then it might be all right. But if you catch it afterwards, you have a bit more of an edge. It's likely now that Kix has popped it.
He's chasing him, but I don't think Kix is going to turn around too much and fight this.
Well, if they're both at that health, it's a risk both ways, right? They've both got a rocket launcher. One good rocket from either of them would have sort of taken that and put it straight in the opponent's favor if it went wrong. So no wonder they sort of even that back out.
Well, it's also definitely worth Kix taking his time to top up everything, right? Because we cannot forget, hang on a minute, a fight forced immediately, and just like that, Kix just pops up and takes out that frag straight away.
Now he's got the luxury of seeing the start. He's going to know he's near LG too, which is going to be very important to know. Kix has been consistently keeping this style on Corrupted Keep. Just sort of just sitting to the heavy, right? Just keep that heavy armor in your favor.
It does seem very first frag heavy though. It seems like whenever Kix gets that first frag and he wins the fight and is obviously in the lead of champions, he can very much do what he wants to do, but currently, when he, I actually think this might be the first round that he's actually taken that first frag, so actually finally able to see him start doing what he was doing before. Oh wow, jumps straight on Cemetery. Cemetery just had genuinely no idea he was there.
Yeah, you said it earlier on, right? Caught with the pants down. How about that one?
Still, took minimal damage for it at the very least, so Cemetery not going to pay the price too bad. And Piercing Sight not going to be up for a long time. And that Dire Orb is just sitting there waiting to be unleashed. Cemetery waiting out that teleporter exit. He has a feeling. Didn't commit to it too hard though. There's the OG, but a lot of damage on that rocket. It's one thing Kix has been doing wonderfully so far, is just making sure that every rocket that actually does damage is doing a nice chunk every time. And we can see him use Piercing Sight to see if it's safe to pick up the Mega Health. We are, and he has in fact seen that it is not safe at all. gets swiftly collected by Cemetery, but that does mean the heavy armor's up.
Well, what that is going to allow him to see is Cemetery just walk in there and take it from him too, which is very, very difficult. Straight round the corner.
2 rockets, that's all he needed. 2 well-placed rockets, and that's taken out Visor already. Kicks on this Blaskovic.
Now, Kicks has done great things with Blaskovic before, and I think to play Blaskovic effectively, it really comes down to like knowing when to be aggressive, but that is just a bad time to get caught in the corner with nowhere to run right there. He hasn't got the highest health pool in the game, and if you've got an LG pinning you down, you will die in seconds. And he's caught him airborne too, but wow! Very, very good sequence right there with the rockets and the die roll for massive damage. I mean, that's unchanged with Rager, really.
I mean, we saw Kicks respawn, but he went straight for LG, but Cemetery was just there waiting for him, and not really enough that acid connected. Might have been able to see a trade out, but even then, it still would have been in Cemetery's favor. Now he goes 1 round away from tying things up 1 map apiece. That's a big change of pace than we saw before. The first map was very one-sided for Kicks, but Cemetery, this was his map choice, so looking a lot more comfortable on it.
Just gives you that choice, you know, to sort of change the pace of the match, go for an entirely different playstyle. Forced uses Ghost Walk quite early on, but...
Also, speaking of new playstyles, Kicks starting with Sorlak this time, supposed to putting on the end, but hang on a minute, turns around straight away! Oh, wait a minute, he mustn't have survived. 4 health, had barely any life left whatsoever, but still, just enough to survive and collect the heavy armor and plenty of small health pickups.
That just comes down to the difference in stack, man. I mean, it has more health and more armor, but in that instance, sort of caught in a particularly bad situation, so not quite able to recover from the fight that, well, could have gone better at the end there, I guess. But if you get a good start, the map is so small. If you've got good knowledge of where they're likely to be, you can, in many ways, just rush them, finish the job, then trade it out.
Sorlak does have a lot of health, like a lot of health, but if she survives with barely any life at all, and their mega health isn't there, it is actually going to take her quite a long time to top up back to full on small health. So there's only so many positions you can heal up on this map, and obviously both these players are going to have immense knowledge on where they are, and obviously the individual cooldown timers, or respawn timers, I should say, of those small healths. Not too surprising to see Cemetery play around that so well.
Ooh, I love those moments where they're both, you know, both players are walking around, they're just waiting for the other player to just make that one little sound cue that gives them away.
So though Kicks took that time to get away, secures himself the heavy armor again. It's going to be useful, but the mega health can be up soon. See Kicks looking in this direction. Is he going to make it in time? Not too sure, really. Doesn't look like he's too fussed about securing mega health yet.
Here comes Kicks right around the corner. He's got that rocket in hand, which will automatically make him a lot more dangerous. You know, the second he gets those fights on deck and he decides to dual wield, Cemetery's going to be in trouble for 15 seconds until he gets his die roll back.
Oh, jumped straight into that rocket, but still alive, 50 health. Kicks doesn't seem content with chasing, and they're kind of just trading out some pokey damage for one of the key pickups. Kind of just doing it over and over and over again right now, and already over 2 minutes into this round.
But that's crucial for Cemetery. He's been able to get the die roll back. So he's going to have that escape route. He's going to have that edge over BJ.
Just sitting patiently though. I think it's Cemetery just listening out, just trying to take that fight, but hearing for it, knowing when it's safe to leave.
You can't risk running around the corner against a BJ who's got the wood ready. I mean, it's a risk that you can't take. I mean, even if you've got that die roll. Get caught off guard for 1 second.
Teleport to it.
Exactly.
Oh, but he is the biggest problem he's going to have here, but Kicks is still looking and waiting. Both players being equally as patient. Gets the mega health, but takes a lot of damage from the rocket on the way.
Yeah, we've very swiftly gone back. I think we're likely to see something similar now this heavy's about to spawn, though.
Maybe, but again, they don't seem too fussed on just trading it out every time. This is very slow-paced.
There's the trap. That is why.
Immediately springs it with a dual wield. Immediately. That is why they're being so patient. That is why they're being so careful. Kicks caught him out of position for, like you said before, right? A couple of seconds with that dual wield, and that's all he needed to just melt down Cemetery's health.
Well, I mean, Cemetery was going to look right or he's going to look left there because he opted to look left, and Cemetery was right. That was the one play that Kicks needed to just, in the blink of an eye, take him out. I mean, that's the strength of this champion, I find.
Well, has given him the lead, and now a minute away from sudden death, of which Kicks will currently lead. Kicks doesn't see him there. Dual wheel popped. He has to chase. He hangs around. That was brave from Kicks to hang around, knowing full well Cemetery was going to chase him with that dual wheeled LG. But Kicks was just confident in his own rocket ability, and Kicks has had some incredible rockets in his 1v1.
I feel like Cemetery had the luxury there of, even though he lost his champion, he was at least given the knowledge that Kicks had lost his ability, which means that, okay, if I spawn as Blaskovic and I'm near the LG, which Cemetery was, if I can catch him right now when, you know, we've just had a fight and I'm fresh off the spawn and I've got dual wield, he was likely to trade it out. And that's probably why we saw the rush there. And if he won that fight, he would have been able to go back towards the Mega and heal back up for the next spawn. It would have been a great situation. Unfortunately, he kind of had to pile everything he had into that play. And it just didn't work out because of a couple of good rockets from Kicks.
But it goes back to the sort of pivotal turning point that the Ghost Walk is out of Cemetery, but this is going to be the last round of the map regardless. If Cemetery wins, he ties up 1 map apiece and we go to map 3, but if Kicks wins, that is going to be it. He'll be advancing through winner side, and Cemetery is going to be sending his way down to the lower bracket.
The pressure of...
this is a bad situation to be caught in. He's just going to try and get away, but I don't know if he can outrun a Sorlag that's bunny hopping this fast. Oh, he will not be able to at all, and didn't even need to use the acid spit, and has a fully overstacked mega health and plenty of armor to work with. This is bad for Cemetery.
I kind of wonder why we saw Cemetery pushed up against that wall there. Now, there's an element of pushback with the LG, of course, but it kind of looked like he kind of went in a straight line, trying to escape rather than left or right.
He left the ground with a jump trying to build up that speed, but obviously as soon as you leave the ground and the LG starts pushing you, he kind of just got pinned against the wall.
Yeah, it's the worst time to get caught by an LG in cases like that, for sure.
It does happen, especially when you're a squishy champion like Nix with no Ghost Walk. I mean, you are a lamb to the slaughter. Oh, that's a lot of damage coming out. Cemetery chasing.
He's gonna, yeah, chase this down.
Only has a machine gun, but is confident that's all he needs.
I mean, he's got to be careful. That acid spit is ready. If he tries to go too close range, I mean, even though it's not going to be doing as much damage as we've seen in the past, it's still a decent chunk.
Mega held up any second though, Cemetery. He's going to be picking it up. Not sure if he's gone for it yet. Maybe he just doesn't want to be too hasty, I suppose. Obviously, if you be a little bit too predictable and go for Mega or Heavy, you might accidentally walk straight into a direct. So they're waiting out. A much stronger start for Kicks, and again, now he's taking that first frag. Look at the speed, look at the pace he's enforcing this game to
He slows things down the second he scores that first frag. But I feel like that's a playstyle that on every map we've seen on him so far, he does extremely well. You know, there's an element of just a lot of patience, frustrate the opponent into... The second the time runs out, it kind of pushes them in a situation where they need to make something happen, otherwise they're going to lose.
But speaking of map, you don't really see this on Corrupted Keep. I'm forced to pick up some more rockets, so he gets himself 5, but it's better than having none at all. But you don't really tend to see this kind of slow-paced approach on Corrupted Keep. I think it really sort of goes to show, and if you're really dedicated to a style, it can work if you have the advantage to push, and that's what Kicks has right now. Cemetery now forced, trying to come in, desperately trying to pick up this rocket launcher, but Kicks is not letting them any of it. LG coming out, trading out. Oof, Diorb. That would have been a dramatically different 1v1 if that Diorb were connected, but unfortunately for Cemetery, it missed completely. And now Kicks has the mega health, just stacking up higher and higher.
I feel like that was a last-minute judgment call as well of, do I teleport? Because if he teleported, he would have had to have gone in with the expectation that it would have connected and dedicated everything to the telefrag. I think Cemetery was like, you know what, if this misses, I've teleported into the belly of the beast, it's not worth it. And he opted to just get out of there instead. Which makes a lot of sense when you're match point down, that's for sure.
Still though, speaking of match point down, the timer ticking away. I've just gone the 3-minute mark now though, and still Kicks with that strong champion lead and constantly picking up the mega health. The armor, but that's a much better fight for Cemetery. None of the acid at all connecting, and that is going to be an easy frag for Cemetery. And just like that, Kicks' lead has just gone completely.
In the blink of an eye.
He does have dual wheel, but there's the Diorb there waiting too.
Now, we've seen in previous rounds the level, I mean, we've talked about patience from Kicks constantly, but his level of discipline to lay a trap with Blaskovic and then use the dual wield when he knows it's guaranteed. You know Cemetery, he's going to be looking out for that. He's going to be having to be more patient now than he's ever been playing this map before. You can't afford to misplay one time against this champion, especially with a player like Kicks who has this level of patience we've seen today.
Damage coming out, well, I suppose consistent damage coming out from a distance over there. Next to the machine gun. Still though, 50 seconds away from sudden death. This could be the final frag of the game. Again, you can see that caution, just not wanting to walk around the corner into a waiting Blaskovic.
Oh.
Who is actually, speaking of which,
Oh, no!
The Direwolf just gets the teleport, but no, goes down in a direct rocket mid-air. Kix has to respawn and find him right now. He has no time. He has Visor last. The piercing sight is popped. He knows Cemetery is there. But does he have any weapons to actually go for this fight? And we can see Cemetery looks like he's going for that runaway game.
That is so unfortunate for Kix, where in many ways Cemetery should have been dead there. He fumbled the Dire Orb toss. He wasn't able to teleport up higher. He got stuck on the wall. He got caught on the jump pad as well. That definitely should have been Kix's round, but just a couple of missed rockets. He didn't have the damage. Not even rockets, actually, I should say. It's just damage in general. That is so unfortunate. That is going to be the map.
That one mistake just costed Kix the entire game.
Well, I mean, he caught him with a bunch of LG. He caught him with a bunch of LG near that jump pad, and then I believe it had to change to a machine gun. I'm not sure if he ran out of ammo at that time, but that was his round to lose in that moment. I mean, that was a great scenario to be in, but I guess he just wasn't able to execute. But on the flip side, from Cemetery, two very, very crucial rockets. I think that was both clutch from Cemetery and a little bit of elements of a choke from Kix right there.
Yes, it will. Fortunately, it was, and there's kind of no real way of getting around that. It was a situation that Kix, he took the first frag, he was looking really good. Yeah, the clock was with him at the time, but losing his first champion in such close fashion again, thanks to some of those acids not really landing on the mark the way they kind of needed to, which we're actually yet to see Kix really get a good acid spit so far. But then that, like you said, that final moment when Cemetery not only was down in the situation, had been caught out and was taking loads of damage from the dual wield, messed up his Dire Orb throw, and by all rights should have been a dead man for it, but was able to salvage it. Ended up taking the round with a nice, well-placed mid-air immediately to recover. I think that mid-air really was the turning point.
Because the thing is, in the heat of the moment, in situations like that, when you've just done something that you know is an error, and you realize that this could be a series-losing mistake that could send you into losers, right? It's when that happens, emotions run wild in your brain. They put you in a situation where you're having to stay calm and calculated, but you've just messed up. It takes a real kind of player, I think, to, in the heat of the moment like that, just forget about it and continue to have good accuracy to get rockets like we did just see there from Cemetery. I think it was very impressive stuff on his end. And I think he truly earned his way into this final map, which will be Blood Run. And to be honest, right now, I'm just enjoying watching the creativity. I was really not sure how the players would approach this patch, but right now I think they're really starting to explore options from what we can see.
Well, going into today, there was a couple of possibilities in terms of outcome. It was going to be players just sticking to their guns and going with, the exact same composition they'd been using before, which, for all we know, this could have been a lineup of champions these guys were using beforehand anyway. I'm not just going to say that because this is the first time.
Did Kix use Visor before it was cool?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, most likely. But even then, this is the beauty of broadcasting tournaments to a region that we don't really get to see too much of. Even though we don't doubt there are phenomenal players around in all the regions that we're going to be broadcasting, we don't really get to see them regularly. So being able to see them now in a competitive setting where they're not just playing for exposure or a little bit of prize money, they're playing for a spot at Dreamhack Winter. That is ultimately what they're going for. And knowing that we're going to have that sort of global representation, especially on an interesting patch like this, I'm excited to see what happens because of it.
But that's the exciting thing about the Dreamhack Winter series in general, is that, you said it yourself, we don't really get to, we know of these scenes, you know of the Australian scene, the South American scene. There are plenty of scenes around the world that we're going to be seeing in future qualifiers, and South America being one of them today. The reality is there's just not as much constant access, I guess, to footage of these guys taking part in tournaments and competing. There's the odd stream here and there. I think people just naturally play in the game, but in tournament where you can see how they play in this kind of environment, under this kind of pressure, it's a little bit more limited. So I think it's great that Dreamhack Winter really is bringing players together. It really is bringing the world together so we can see, right, what scenes are truly the strongest in the world for Quake Champions, and we are in the process of seeing that right now.
Well, before we can find out which scene is the strongest, we have to find the strongest players of that scene. And going into the third and final map of this first series of the day, it looks like we're going to be seeing Cemetery stick with at least the first two picks that he's been going with consistently, and same thing coming out of Kix also. So the Scale Bearer. So Kix picking a different third every time, and now Cemetery will be going for that Sorlag third final pick. Now, Scale Bearer received a small adjustment in his maximum armor has gone up by 25, I believe, so that's going to make him a lot tankier in those end-game situations where he's managed to bulk himself up as much as possible. He already has insane damage reduction with the Bull Rush, so now you're chucking some more armor on top of that means he's just that one step harder to take down. But playing him in a duel setting is, there's no really getting around it. He was seen as a weaker champion beforehand. He definitely had his uses here and there. Obviously, some players really stuck with Scale Bearer Scalebearer early on in the game's life and had a lot of experience with him there that would obviously carry through to if ever you play him again, you're going to remember how to play him, right? You put so much time into him. Doesn't matter if he's not considered that strong, you're still going to be knowing how to play them at the time. Now, is Kix going to be in the same boat, do we reckon? Or is he picking Scalebearer post-patch to see what he can do with it?
Well, it's a very short-range map, and there's a lot of little corridors. I mean, the possibility of being point-blank is not amazingly likely on this map because, obviously, if both players are being knowledgeable around the teleports and stuff like that, it is actually sort of more based around a little bit more distance, only taking the fight where it's guaranteed. But with Scalebearer in general, again, it's kind of difficult to say, but for reasons like that, where he immediately pops the bull rush, knowing Cemetery is likely to get the Mega, that was a perfectly executed decision, and the proof is in the pudding. He did so much damage in a short space of time.
And also catching a rail back-to-back, 2 shots swiftly. Kix is not messing around anymore. He wants to finish this off immediately, and starting off with the Scalebearer too, and making those good reads and getting good shots. This is the perfect start for Kix.
I think he pretty much just proved to everyone watching right now in the space of about 5 seconds exactly why he picked Scalebearer in this map.
He's working out for it at the moment, less than a minute in, but looks like Kix is already looking down, waiting for that heavy armor pickup attempt. Already has the gauntlet out right now.
Another fantastic rail. He's pretty much hit 100% of those rails so far.
Bruce is not really doing much with them beyond, but it looks like Cemetery has jumped down, but getting away again anyway. Kix spending a lot of time with his gauntlet out as Scalebearer here. Do you reckon he's expecting Cemetery to almost like dire orb in? He's trying to catch him?
There'll be an element of a combo here if he knows Cemetery's going to go for the Mega, but Cemetery got sort of slapped on the wrist so hard at the very beginning there for going for Mega, knowing it was a likely thing Kix is going to be near. I think he might be a little bit reluctant to go for that again, at least in this round.
Maybe the heavy armor going to bring up Scalebearer to very chunky at 100 to 125 health, and the bull rush is there ready to go as well. It's a good situation for Kix to be in, as we've done a lot of damage to Cemetery, but oh, nice flick, and Cemetery put on very low health, and that armor he just picked up vanished immediately.
And once more, as long as he's being kept on the back foot, he's taking those rails, he's being forced on the edge of the map to get those small health, those small armors. He's going to be nowhere near the heavy. He's going to be nowhere near the Mega. He's going to be consistently behind. And at the same time, Kix will be allowed to take those pickups, and seeing as he's now got that newly chunked up Scalebearer, it will just give him a constant advantage. And because his accuracy's been on point, it will just... He's going to naturally have more health than Cemetery has at all times to take up the charge.
Now tries to lead the way with the Dire Orb being one of the easier juking options in the game, so getting around it. But on the topic of the bull rush, hang on, if we could get there, that's a lot of damage.
A well-timed Dire Orb can also be a guaranteed way to stop that bull rush too. I mean, Scalebearer can't really control... If he's going in that dead straight line in a range at that range, he can't really stop avoiding that Dire Orb telefrag if the accuracy's on point. Cemetery just kind of fumbled it there. And it's not easy to do, don't get me wrong, by all means it is definitely not easy to do.
Still though, if Kix can take Cemetery's armor away, at least the bull rush will be a lot easier to guarantee that damage. But Cemetery just got caught in a very awkward position there. I don't think he wasn't quite sure where to go. As soon as that Dire Orb didn't quite get him out, wasn't really much else for him to do. And there is that damage mitigation from Kix, just putting to perfect use. Using the bull rush to secure the power up, but also just mitigate all of that damage. The Cemetery just literally spat up all over him.
And then you combine that with the smaller damage output of the damage over time. The acid, and if he's in charge, it's just going to be a nice little situation there. Scalebearer, I mean, just very minimal damage taken indeed.
Kix making Scalebearer look very strong right now, I'm not going to lie. This champion does have his issues in duel in certain situations, but definitely has certain utility. And that's what we're seeing a lot from Kix right now is, good use of the bull rush for getting damage off and keeping himself alive in certain situations. And just like that, Cemetery stuck against the wall again. And so far, Kix has just been pinning Cemetery up against the wall every chance he gets. He just isn't letting him move.
Now, I'm going to be very, very interested to see what the start's going to be in this next round. Do we see Kix go with Scalebearer again? And if that's the call, do we see a fight at Mega instantly? Because it's the same champions, he's going to go for it again, but that's the instant adaptation. Cemetery, he, for a moment's notice, went towards the Mega and then instantly stopped and turned around. I mean, the start from Kix was exactly the same. If Cemetery went towards that Mega, he probably would have gone down again.
Well, the thing is, Scalebearer is a bit of a noisy boy. It's like, Visor where you can't hear his ability. When Scalebearer starts to run, you hear the footsteps, you hear him say his cool line.
He's a galactic warlord.
He is, intergalactic warlord. Oof, that would have been huge. Still though, the Ghost Walk is popped. That's health secured.
Another difficult situation for Cemetery because
Goodbye, Cemetery. You are out of there, immediately caught. And that is actually an interesting talking point, is when you're caught with no armor versus Scale Bearer, you have nothing to mitigate that raw bull rush damage. And that can delete you if you are squishy enough.
But it was an unfortunate exchange for Cemetery because he tried to go towards that heavy and he was a second short. You know, he was forced to use the Ghost Walk, he was forced to try and get out of there. But before having to use Ghost Walk, he didn't have the benefit of the heavy armor.
But you know, there was a split second there that Cemetery was expecting that jump pad to save him from that, right? Like, okay, well, if I got up high enough, obviously he can't jump while using that, so I'm going to be safe, but unfortunately it wasn't meant to be.
Galactic Warlord does not care about such jump pads.
Hey man, when he's running fast, I think I'll stop that momentum.
But it's pretty much exactly what we've seen previously. He's able to sort of slow the pace of the game down. For once more, he's going to be able to sort of control the middle of this map very effectively. If he catches you up one time at close range with this stack, and he's got his charge, I mean, even after that fight, he's got a nice amount of health. A really nice amount of health, in fact. That's going to be swiftly topped up with the Mega 2.
I mean, this is the first map in the series that Kix has even used Scale Bearer. Like, we've seen a different champion on that sort of like third pick every single map from him this time. And I think that shows a lot of game knowledge for a start, a lot of diversity, a lot of adaptability, but also in a meta where it definitely seemed like players were kind of having their designated 3, and that was kind of what they were running with for the whole, and it was very similar because obviously it made sense, right? They were the strongest champions at the time. But being that it's a new patch, I think if you are a player like Kix and you have a lot of champions at your disposal that you know how to use and a lot of strategies, you will thrive when a new patch comes out because you'll have a lot of options and you won't feel too limited if what you're kind of limiting yourself to every time ends up getting nerfed.
Well, it's open season, right? You've got a deep understanding of all the different champions. I mean, just here, Kix is just, it's been hard to keep him away from that Mega. From start to finish.
That 3-weapon combination. Beautiful stuff from Kix. From Rocket to LG to Rail. That was a perfect sequence on how to delete a big body like Sorlag. Beautiful stuff.
Match point in quick fashion. Do we see Scale Bearer again? We do, but he's not quite close enough to the Mega, so the start will be a little bit different. I think Cemetery might be breathing a sigh of relief for that one. As you can see, it has allowed him to take the Mega off that exchange. Or lack of exchange is a much better sentence.
I mean, there's no getting around it. You need to be as stacked as possible when you're fighting against a Scale Bearer, because that bull rush could just happen at any time. If you get caught around the corner or in a corridor or out of a teleporter, if your opponent just makes that read on you, there is just nothing you can do. He gets you in a bad spot. We've already seen that used a lot so far. Oh, it looks like he shot him in the foot there.
I mean, Cemetery was thrown a lifeline by that first missed rail, but I think he opted to really stick around, try and get a little bit of damage by that Mega, but I just don't think it was the right call to take because Kix's accuracy on these rails has been so on point. Challenging it is, and that's another one of the changes. That is one of the changes to Tri-Bolt. Explodes on impact, dealing 50 guaranteed damage when it collides, and before he even had a chance to think about it, his Ranger was just out of there. Zip kaboom, dead for good.
Now this is a bad spot for Cemetery to be in. He is left with Sorag alone. There we go. The bull rush is here. He's chasing him down. Is he going to use it? Yep. No, doesn't even need it. Goes for the gauntlet. Holds on to the bull rush in case he needs to chase down. What a round from Kix. I mean, that was just... There's nothing else you can say,
I mean, just styled on him at the end.
Well played.
Just styled on him at the end right there. I mean, there were so many things he could have done there. I know the gauntlet was the easy solution, but Scale Bearer is not the fastest of champions. I mean, him actually chasing you down with that gauntlet and very slowly running up to you to grind you up, it's not the easiest thing the champions do. But I think what we just saw right there was a great display of independent game knowledge, knowing what champions he wanted to use for the right situation, but just... He was pretty much impossible to force away from Mega that entire map, and it looked very hard for Cemetery to really do anything about it. The entire map, he was just stacked 100% of the time, and if he even challenged him up close, his rails were ridiculous, so if you fought him, you never had the same amount of health he had. He was saving the bull rush, so either he would kill you with it to chase you down, which we saw in the second map, or if he needed to escape, he had that in many ways almost guaranteed escape because he had all that health to begin with. If he decides it's going bad, he can just get out of there with the guaranteed damage mitigation off the charge. I mean, it was... In hindsight, a very, very effective champion for Kix to go with. I think you can see exactly why he went with that champion to begin with.
No, 100%. And I think you can almost, like, if you wanted to make a video, right, about what's changed in the patch, highlighting how some of these changes can work in a serious game, you could literally just chop up that set right there and show scale bearer stuff, the tri-bolt stuff.
The tri-bolt at the very end.
I forgot about the tri-bolt changes.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, the tri-bolt, I mean, the visuals and the tri-bolts themselves are a little bit different, but now the bolts explode on impact and they'll deal the 50 damage. And because you're shooting 3 of them, I mean, you saw right there, right? He got hit by 2, 1 first and then 2. That was it. He was just out of there immediately. A humongous amount of damage output. That was on a ranger too, not the smallest champion in the game by any stretch of the word, but Kix is moving on. He'll be in moving on in the winners bracket, so he's got that fantastic comfort zone. I have no doubt we'll be seeing him later on today, and we might even be seeing him in that sort of winners final scenario to find out if he might be one of our qualified players for South America. We're going to go for a quick break and set up some future duels.